Hey, it's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This young man is a rock star, and we're so excited about talking to him, Brandon Cleaver, and we have mutual friends, Alicia Wood, and I think you know Sean Hart, right? Or do you want to admit that publicly? Or?
I do. I love Sean. Sean is the best, along with Alicia. So I have no problem admitting that publicly.
That's good.
Hey, Brandon, I don't know if you know this or not, but when was that, Dan? A couple of years ago, we actually had Sean rapping on our show when we used to go to work downtown.
Yeah. He rapped, did a rap song that he had written. I think the one that he had written a long time ago. Yeah. So he's a man of many talents. You just never know what Sean's going to do.
Sean raps. He also don't tell anyone. But he also break dances.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know if he does it now, but I know he used to do it. And I've been trying to get him to dust his basketball shoes out and let's go play some one-on-one. Although he has me probably by about 50 pounds of muscle, or 20 pounds of muscle and a couple inches of height. But I'll
all you need is talent, man. You don't need the muscle and the height.
That's right.
Hey, I can't wait to talk to him again. I'm going to bring both of those things up.
Next time he's on, we're making him break dance. That's all there is to it.
That's awesome.
We love Sean to pieces. He and Alicia have a special place in our hearts. We want to talk to you. First of all, you got a great family. I see 2 sons, a daughter, and a wonderful wife. Why is she so wonderful, Brandon? We want to know. And so does she.
Well, she puts up with me. And if you know that the names of our children are Braden, Bryson, and Braylon. And so the natural question is, well, what's your wife's name? My wife's name is Chantel. So she got sort of the short end of the stick there. But that's part of why she's wonderful, because she's allowed this progression of bees to continue.
I love it. Now, do you have a dog or a cat with a bee name as well to throw it in the mix too?
We used to have when I was in my teens. My sister, of course, her name is Brittany. Yeah. We had a dog named Buster. So he died from me. But I have enough kids. I don't need any animals in the house. Right.
Love it. Apologist Brandon Cleaver with us. He's got some videos that he's doing on his Facebook page. You got to check him out, called the Jude 3 Project. We'll talk to him about that in a second. We haven't talked to you since, this whole thing with the pandemic and COVID. How are you doing? Are you getting out and about? Or things getting back to semi-normalcy for the Cleaver household, or what?
Oh, it's a normalcy in the Cleaver household is almost an oxymoron. So with a bunch of kids, but I think we've adapted like everyone else. The hardest thing, being a speaker and really wanting to be there live in person with people and have that one-on-one interaction and that level of intimacy, that's missed a lot now. I have had some local opportunities to speak in person, sort of at a distance, but mostly it's on through Zoom or through the computer or whatever. So I'm grateful that we have this technology to still be able to speak and do those types of things and interact. Yeah. But I can't wait till we can get back to doing it in person. So
now, when you do speak in front of audiences, is there one topic that you just really love to talk about? I know a lot of you guys with Sean and Alicia and the whole Vince and Joanna and all those, everybody, they kind of have a niche that they like to talk about. What is it that you like to focus on?
Yeah, I think of recent being African-American from Detroit, and really, I think at a young age, wrestling with a lot of the questions and concerns that sort of naturally emerge from the African-American experience. A lot of times it's issues of race and ethnicity and how the gospel intersects with those questions and concerns, really diving deep into those and showing how the truth, the beauty, and the goodness of the Christian worldview. So I would say specifically recently with all of the sort of racial unrest that's sort of swirled around in the country over the past few years, I've been asked to speak a lot on that subject from different perspectives. So I would say that's something that I've been focusing on recently, though I do have other passions as well. So.
Brandon Cleaver with us, apologist, and as I mentioned earlier on his Facebook page, he's got some really good videos. Jude 3 project. I got to, I think it was the last one, the latest one. I watched it this morning, and I love it because I mean, I've got questions, not for myself, but I have people in my world that are asking these questions. And honestly, Brandon, they're so much younger than me, and they're so much smarter than me. And you know, I'm an old guy. I've been around the block, but sometimes I scratch my head and go, "Can I get back to you? I need to talk to somebody like Brandon."
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Bible being reliable. That's a topic that you brought out, and about the transmission of the Gospels, which I loved. You talked about them being the Gospels being a reliable historical document. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. And you're a humble guy, Rick, but I know you and Dan are very wise. So,
Wise guys, yes, but that's a completely different thing.
yeah, well, thank you for mentioning that. You know, I'm doing I've partnered with the Jude 3 Project, founded by Lisa Fields. And the Jude 3 Project, for those who aren't familiar, is a platform that Lisa started to really address some of the things that I mentioned, these specific concerns that arise from the African American experience. But it's not, I don't want people to think that it's just for African Americans. It's for everybody. Because specifically as Christians, we belong to a multi-ethnic, multicultural body of believers. And the way that we sort of get to know each other and get to that level of really loving each other is to know one another. So it requires that level of intimacy to really understand each other. So the Jude 3 Project helps to facilitate that. So with this specific series, I did 4 videos. One will drop every Thursday of this month. This one, I didn't even plan it this way. This had to be God's doing. But the one that I have coming up tomorrow is actually dealing with women in the Bible and this myth. So the overall series is called Unmasking the Myths of Christianity. And the myth, Rick, that you mentioned is the one dealing with this myth that the Bible is unreliable. The second one that I'm dealing with this week is actually dealing with the fact that some people believe that the Bible sees women as inferior. So I'm going to push back gently a bit against that notion as well tomorrow. But yeah, talking about the reliability of the Bible is so important because a lot of people just see it as this document from 1,000 years ago with all this antiquated information and rules and regulations and these things. But I think that if we can think about it as any other historical document, subjected to the same types of tests that we would any other document from in history, like the Declaration of Independence, for example, and test the authenticity of something like that, then we should subject the Bible to those same critiques and be fair in our assessments as well.
Brandon, we were talking before we went on about how you've gone from journalist to software writer for Ford to apologist now. And you've kind of been an apologist all along, just really kind of studying more. But talk about how you've kind of morphed through those things and being in the auto industry and now an apologist.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment. I can just keep on moving. I'm actually finishing up a degree right now, a Master's of Divinity at Moody in Michigan here right now as well. Yeah. But yeah, I've always had a love for writing. Writing has always been my first love. And probably my second love from a young age was sports. So when I had the opportunity after graduating from Michigan State to mesh those two things together to become a sports journalist, that was a great opportunity. And I did that out in Des Moines, Iowa for several years. And then when I came back to Michigan, I had a couple odd jobs. But when I got back in like the sort of real corporate world, I became a technical writer with a intellectual property company called Thomson Reuters. So I was writing the tech documents, and I was essentially writing the type of documents that many of the software engineers would use for their whatever task they were using. So I befriended one of them, and he said, you're writing all the documents. If I teach you some codes, you could probably come over here. You maybe can still do some writing, but you can also make a little extra money actually, working as a software engineer. So I did that. at Thomson Reuters, and then moved on to Ford. And the cool thing about Ford, one of the cool things that I experienced there was I had a weekly Bible study with some men and women from Chennai, India. And only one of them was Christians. The other were Hindu. So it gave me a great opportunity to learn from them to learn from me. And I had a great time, especially when they would kick my butt in ping pong. It was great. It was a great time. And then, of course, I was able to go on and become a speaker and writer on a more permanent basis.
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't it interesting? And I mean, we know this, right? How God orders your steps.
Yes.
And seemingly, if you think about it in a human perspective, it really doesn't make sense. But even you crossing the path with the two Hindus, I think you said, and one Christian, how you can glean from that and deposit, your relationship with Christ, but also learn at the same time, and then move on into what you're doing now. It's just amazing. Does that ever surprise you at times? Are you in awe at what God does?
It's surprising, and if I can be fully honest with you, it's a bit scary at times, because if I'm glad, Rick and Dan, that he's the one ordering my steps, because if I would have been the one doing it, I would have fell down the steps, and I have fell down the steps, but I've been doing it on a more regular basis. And the thing about it is that, one of the beautiful things about the Christian faith is that word faith itself means that we trust him, that he is trustworthy. And if he would have told me 10 or 15 years ago that one day I'm going to have you standing in front of sometimes 10 people, sometimes 300 people, answering their questions and giving talks and things like that, I would have did like Jonah and ran the exact opposite way. No way I would have ever wanted to do that. But him slowly taking me through these steps, getting more familiar with answering questions and things like that in small settings, and then more broadly, it's a beautiful thing when I look back on it. And this idea of, I think, remembering, particularly in times like this, with COVID-19 going on, with so much uncertainty, with families being hurt so much by the effects of the pandemic, whether it's financially or physically, losing loved ones. I think remembering God's faithfulness and the prayers that he's answered, and his provisions that never run out, is something that can help us to get through this time. And it certainly helped me and my family.
Brandon, that's so good. So good. We're so glad we got connected to you. We'd love to have you back on. I know you did mention that you're about to finish up your master's. Someday you'll be Dr. Cleaver. Will you make your wife?
He's like, no.
Will you make your wife call you Dr. Cleaver? No, definitely not. It's funny. I was planning on doing a PhD, but I think I'm about schooled out right now. So I don't know. And honestly, the amount of time it takes away from me being able to spend some time with family, and particularly with the kids, I have to weigh the importance of that, of getting that doctor in front of my name. But even if I did, no, my wife absolutely would not absolutely call me that.
I think having that dad title is much more important than that doctor title. So
absolutely,
you're doing the right thing, man.
Yes.
Brandon Cleaver, apologist. Check out his Facebook page. It's simply Brandon Cleaver, and check out what he's doing on there. Some really cool stuff. You're going to get a lot out of it. And what a delight you are, Brandon. We would love to pick up with you in the next few months and see what's going on. Blessings to your family, your sweet family, and God's hand is just all over you. You know that, but we recognize it, and God is so good. Hey, let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.